السلام عليك سيدي ومولاي يا أبا عبد الله، وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك، عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في محكم كتابه الكريم، وهو أحسن القائلين وأصدق الصادقين: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ومن أحسن قولا ممن دعا إلى الله وعمل صالحا وقال إنني من المسلمين. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. For the purification of the souls and the enlightenment of the hearts, and for the hastening of the reappearance of Baqiyatullah al-A'zam Ruhi wa Arwahul Alameen Lahul Fida, enlighten your souls and the atmosphere with the recitation of salawat upon Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. My dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's a practice involving two people, normally performed as an expression of introduction or to demonstrate gratitude. It comes in different shapes and forms. It is universally accepted around the world as a method of greeting. The handshake is a symbol that is often demonstrated by human beings in order to present oneself before the other. Indeed, handshake has been the method of introduction and at the same time a way by which the human being present themselves to the other for many centuries. Today, archaeological ruins and at the same time texts show that, for instance, handshake has been practiced for as long as 2,500 years ago in Greece. Likewise, we are told that when it comes to the shaking of the hands, there are different types of cultures and traditions that exist in the world today. You look at China and, for instance, Japan. You'll see in those countries it is customary when it comes to shaking hands to do so lightly. And at the same time, what they do is that after the handshake, a symbol of love that they display amongst each other is to keep holding each other's hands. Whereas when you look at Turkey, it is considered rude to shake somebody's hands firmly. In no way it is not appropriate to shake somebody's hands in a light way. Whereas in South Korea, one who shakes the other person's hands and keeps the other hand in his pocket is considered disrespectful. Likewise, like many things, shaking hands has been the subject of people attempting to break records. In 2011, what happened was that a group of individuals in New York Times Square attempted to break the world record for shaking hands. They did so. The world record stood at 33 hours of continuous shaking hands between two people. When it comes to the religion of Islam, shaking hands is considered as a way in which we are encouraged to perform to demonstrate the need to greet each other. Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam in a famous tradition states, Afshu salam tahabbu, that if you wish to inculcate and to spread the beautiful message of love respect and understanding, then greet people. Spread this message of peace amongst yourselves. Specifically, if you look in the world of hadith, for instance, in the book of Al-Kafi by Sheikh Al-Kulayni, he has a chapter known as Babul Musafaha. The chapter regarding what? Shaking hands. Therein exists many traditions which highlight the importance and the significance of shaking hands. For instance, the Ma'asumeen Salamullahi alayhim, it is reported that they said that when two believers shake each other's hands, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showers them with blessing and mercy as long as they are still shaking each other's hands. And at the same time, their sins fall from them and Allah forgives them, just like how the leaves of the tree fall in autumn, and Allah shakes the hand, metaphorically, not physically. Allah shakes the hand of one of them who has the more love towards the other. Meaning what? That Allah encapsulates them with His mercy, with His forgiveness. Therefore, shaking hands between believers is a demonstration of respect, is a great way of greeting one another. Yet shaking hands and the religion of Islam has been the subject of controversy, where in 2010, Fox News and other television networks reported that Cambridge University in the United Kingdom, they established this memo towards the staff. They said that when it comes to graduation ceremonies, when it comes to greeting others, you should not shake the hands of the Muslims. Why? You should be respectful to cultural tendencies and traditions. And they were, of course, discussing in the show how they thought, in their opinion, that the religion of Islam and Muslims discourage people from shaking the hands of women. For instance, we are told in the international scene there was also a controversy. November 2010, when the US President Obama, he went to Indonesia with the American First Lady, Michelle Obama. When they went to Indonesia, what happened? She would shake the hands of the Indonesian information minister. And this was captured and placed on YouTube, and there was an outrage, an outcry. How could an individual who is a male shake the hands of a female? This is not permissible, they said. And therefore he had to explain himself. In Twitter, what did he say? The Indonesian information minister had to explain himself to the Indonesian people, who the majority of them are Muslim. He said, Michelle Obama is the one that took my hand first. In other words, it's not my fault. She took my hands first. Likewise, in the Olympics last year in the United Kingdom, there was a scene that attracted many people. That when it came to Princess Kate, she came forward to give a medal to an Iranian player who had won one of the medals in the Olympics. His name was Karamzadeh. Instead of shaking his hands, what did she do? She came forward to shake his hands, but he did this. He bowed down, and she, of course, placed the medal over his head and gave it to him. This attracted the media attention, how he refused to shake the hand of a princess. Many of us have been in similar situations, difficult, awkward moments in interviews, maybe in sports tournaments, for instance, graduation ceremonies in schools and universities, whereby there is what? There is a temptation to shake the hands. The religion of Islam comes forward and states in Islamic jurisprudence that when it comes to skin contact, this is not permissible between the male and the female that are not related in a particular way. For instance, skin-to-skin contact and the shaking of the hands is permissible between the husband and the wife, between, for instance, the father and the mother, between the son and the mother, between an individual, a male and his auntie, his mother-in-law, his niece. These are allowed, and a few other. But when it comes to outside these, it is mentioned that it is not permissible. Hence, this idea needs to be examined. This whole concept and how we should deal with it, living in a society like this, in the Western world, needs to be scrutinized and examined and analyzed. Yet on further retrospection and on examination and contemplation, one thing emerges at the outset, and that is the problem and the dilemma of the shaking of the hands, especially in the West, is an example of a problem that is facing many people, an example of a wider issue which is paradoxical in many people's minds in the West. What do we mean? This is an indication of the issue and the subject of identity, and how many people, especially Muslims around the world, are struggling with the notion of identity. What do we mean? Many youth today are coming forward with the questions that are troubling their minds. They ask, am I an American Muslim or a Muslim living in America? Which of the two identities should be superseding and the more dominant? Is there a clash between identities? In other words, what emerges is the pressing need to discuss this subject of what? This subject of identity, how we identify ourselves, because human beings truly want to express themselves in a particular way. Sociologists come forward and say the subject of the identity of the human being is of the utmost importance for a number of reasons. You and I wish to identify ourselves intrinsically because of a security, aman. That identity gives us a sense of belonging. That when I identify myself in a particular way, in a particular fashion, this makes me part of a group of individuals. Therefore, I feel a sense of security. Number two, I am able to express myself if I identify myself. In other words, it gives me the freedom to be able to what? Define who I am. Number three, at the same time, what it does, it also provides me with what? With a group of people that I can associate with, that I can seek some kind of friendship. There is therefore an intrinsic need, and you'll find it throughout the history of mankind. Human beings have identified themselves through different ways, through different shapes and forms. Some people identify themselves through their culture. I am an Arab. I am a Pakistani, for instance. Others identify themselves using the country of their birth. Some people say that I am Norwegian. Others say, for instance, I'm from Nigeria because they were born in this particular country. A third group of people use what? They use the country of their parents. In other words, their ancestors, where their parents came from, is the source of their identity. Other individuals use the powerful tool of language. Just because, for instance, they speak Chinese, they say that my identity is that I am from China. I am considered a Chinese individual. Some people look at what? They look at their past and their forefathers, and they identify themselves using what? Their family name and their forefathers. And this was a common practice at the time of Jahiliyyah. One day in the mosque of the Holy Prophet, the companions of Rasulullah were sitting together. They were discussing this idea of who is better when it comes to identification. Each and every one of them would come forward and say, my family is such and so. It's known for such and so. It's glorious. It's magnificent. They would boast about their families, their backgrounds. All of a sudden, they saw whom? They saw Salman al-Farisi al-Muhammadi, Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayh. He was there. So some of the companions unfortunately wanted to pick on him. Why? Because they knew his father was a non-believer. And he comes from what? He comes from a Zoroastrian sun-worshipping what? Family. His background. They said to him, "Oh Salman, what is your identity? Can you tell us who do you belong to?" They wanted to expose him. Notice how Salman identified himself. Salman looks at them and says, "Ana Salman ibn Abdullah." I am Salman, the son of a servant of God. كنت فقيرا فأغنيت بمحمد. That Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. That I was a man who was poor, in need, and I was destitute, and I became enriched with Rasulullah. وكنت ضالا فهديت بمحمد sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. I was an individual who had gone astray, and Rasulullah is the one whom guided me. Therefore, Salman highlighted what? The importance of identifying ourselves with a characteristic that the Quran presents. Because this notion of identity is crucial. We should be able to examine it before discussing and analyzing the whole idea of handshake and what kind of solutions are there for you and I living in the West. There is a need for us to be able to reflect upon this. The Quran gives you and I the solution when it comes to our identity. In 3 different places there is a summary that is presented for us. How should we identify ourselves? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, have 3 important qualities, and these should come together to be your governing identity. What are they? The first is servitude, ubudiyya. The Quran says, Subhana alladhi asra bi'abdihi laylan min al-masjid al-harami ila al-masjid al-aqsa alladhi barakna hawla. When it comes to addressing Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, the Quran says what? The Quran uses the term abd, servant, before anything else. Before stating that he was a prophet, before saying that he was Rasulullah, before he's saying that he is Habibullah. That's why in Salah, what do we say? وَأَشْهَدُ أَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا عَبْدُهُ وَرَسُولُهُ. Don't we? We begin by expressing the fact that Rasulullah is a servant of God. Meaning what? Meaning that the position and the status of servitude is the most important in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hence, one day Rasulullah was in prostration in his home. And one of his wives noticed that he was not at night next to her. So she thought that he'd gone to another house, the house of another wife. She was suspicious. She went and saw him in sajda, weeping and crying. The area around him was drenched with his tears. She said to him, Ya Rasulullah, you are the one whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has elevated to this position, and yet you are so devout in your worship and ibadah. What does this say about us? Rasulullah looks at her and says, أَوَلَا أَكُونُ عَبْدًا شَكُورًا. Should I not be a grateful servant of Allah? The Prophet of Islam was the manifestation of servitude. A lady from another country, from another nation wants to see the Prophet. She comes to Masjid al-Nabawi. She expects to see what? She expects to see a throne. Rasulullah sitting on a throne. She looks, where is Mohammed? She's told he's sitting there with the people. She comes to him and says, Ya Muhammad, it doesn't befit you. You are the leader of these people. Surely you should sit on something high so that me and others who wish to recognize who the leader is what? Is clearly visible. You should not be like the servants. Rasulullah says to her, indeed, the most beloved position to me is ubudiyya, to be a servant. To be a servant of whom? Of Allah Jalla wa Ala. Therefore, the first level that the Quran tells us is servitude. The second is what? Ya ayyuhan nas, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha, wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qaba'ila lita'arafu. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. O people, we have created you as males and females, and indeed has made you come from different tribes and denominations and nations. The best amongst you is the most God-wary, God-conscious. Therefore, the Quran is telling you and I a categorical message, an emphatic way to identify ourselves, that when it comes to an individual, in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it doesn't matter whether they are from a particular country, from a particular denomination, from wherever they may be. In the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most important thing is taqwa, being God conscious. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. The third area in which the Quran attempts to identify is the following, that the Quran says, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. That the notion is presented in the beautiful, error-free, sinless book, the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the third criteria, in addition to what? In addition to servitude and taqwa, is submission. وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. The religion of Islam says the governing identity that should not necessarily contradict with the others, provided we take this as the main identity of ours, is this: taqwa, submission, and ubudiyya. Please remember these things in order for us to be able to work around this. The Quran and the teachings of the religion of Islam do not forbid the followers from integration. Meaning what? Is there a clash between the American identity and the Muslim identity? Can we be American and at the same time Muslim? Is there a conflict between these two? Of course not. When it comes to integration, the religion of Islam encourages it. As long as any other identity, whether it's American, Arab, any other form, does not clash with the principles and the values of these three things: servitude, submission, and taqwa. As long as these are kept as the governing identity, Islam says you can integrate. Indeed, what Islam encourages is what? It mandates exemplary citizenship. The Quran states that by wearing this identity with pride and honor, you are able to come forward wherever living in the world and present a good picture of the religion and yourself. You can be indeed a beacon of light, an example for people to look at when it comes to the principles that human beings all share: peace, coexistence, love, tolerance. Islam says when you adopt this particular identity, you are able to indeed move forward in your journey, present yourself in the best possible way. Yet at the same time, it discourages the idea of assimilation. Meaning what? There is a difference between integration and assimilation. If we look and examine the history of certain groups of people outside the religion of Islam that migrated to the West, they came with one idea: I have to fit in this society. I will do whatever it takes. I will sacrifice whatever I have in order to be accepted. And therefore they assimilated into the West. They had forsaken their beliefs in order to be counted as one of the people. This is something that the religion of Islam strongly discourages. It states that as a human being with this Muslim identity, we have to recognize the following: that Islam is a comprehensive faith, a religion that dictates everything. But if it comes to the other identities, we can integrate, we can go out and speak with others, we can live peacefully with others. But we have to make sure that we do not make the other identities or issues that conflict with the religion of Islam our priority. We should not sacrifice our own values in order to reach the satisfaction of others. What do you mean? I come to the mosque, I come to the jami', to the center, I am a Muslim, I am praying, I say salam to others. A sister wears hijab. I go to school, I go to my office. The Muslim identity, unfortunately, sometimes is left at home, is left at the jami'. So for instance, sisters may take their hijab lightly. Brothers, when it comes to speaking to others, they are afraid of expressing their Islamicness, their Islamic background, their Muslim identity. And we see this present in many shapes or forms. Yet today we are told there are some inspirational stories out there which highlight to us how we should be proud of our identity. And Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala would bless us and would give us strength and success if we stand there and wear the badge of the religion of Islam with pride and honor. How? You've heard of the story of the lady by the name of Naima in Belgium, 2005. She wears hijab and she works in a factory packaging food. What happened was that the manager of the factory in Belgium in Europe receives a letter. The letter says that we will attack this particular factory. And later on, the letter contains a bullet. If you do not stop employing ladies wearing hijab, then your death is soon. He was threatened with death. This lady hears about it. She's struggling with the notion. What does she do? Does she come and say to her manager, you know what, I'm going to take my hijab off. For you, it's okay. You don't have to fit in. No, she doesn't. She stands by her principles Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Man kana ma'allah, kana Allahu ma'ah. If you support the cause of Allah, Allah will be with you. It might be an examination. It might be a difficult position that you may go through, but rest assured you will attain success at the end. Look at this story as an example. Her boss says to her, don't worry. She says, what do you mean? Her boss says to her, keep wearing the hijab. Notice that sometimes non-Muslims adhere to these principles. She keeps wearing the hijab. He collects 20,000 signatures from the city itself and from the company to demonstrate what support for this lady Naima when it comes to wearing the hijab, and to stand against the extremists who are threatening this particular institution. Later on, the king, because this particular new episode gets publicity, the king of Belgium is traveling in the area, hears about this, visits the same factory and stands next to this Naima and the boss and addresses the people of Belgium and says, we are against discrimination. People are free to wear this particular dress code and to express their religion. Can you imagine? That Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala indeed grants success and prosperity to those who are firm and steadfast. Likewise, I remember one of my friends, and this is a true story that sometimes you and I may go through. He worked in a particular office, and it so happens that every time when it comes to salah, he goes to a particular corner and he prays, he performs the salah. One day his manager saw him. He says, what are you doing? He said, I am performing my salah. He said, you should not do so here. I don't like religious expressions in the office. You must do it outside. He said, I can't do it outside. The weather doesn't help. There's no mosque or place of worship close by. He said, take it or leave it. You are not allowed to perform any religious form or worship here in the office. What did this man do? He said, thank you very much. I resign. He said, what? You will resign? He said, yes. My religion is important to me. If you do not allow me to practice it, then I cannot work here anymore. He himself tells me, what did he say? He said, I placed my resignation on Friday. He said, the manager said, fine, you can go. He says, wallahi, by Monday I received an offer from a company and the salary was much, much bigger and the job was much better. These are demonstrations and examples that we are presented with when it comes to feeling a sense of pride and at the same time confidence in our belief, in our Muslim identity, in coming forward with this notion. Because sometimes we assess ourselves with regards to where we come from, with regards to our families. There is no problem when it comes to cultural tendencies. Sometimes culture has a lot of value, has a lot of meaning. Islam is not against culture. Many of us should adhere to the culture provided it doesn't clash with the Islamic principles. We are told that the Quran gives us a good example in this. What is this example? This example of Prophet Nuh's son. When Prophet Nuh came to his family, including his son, he said to him, Allah's punishment is going to fall upon this community. 950 years he had preached the message of monotheism, of Tawheed, yet the people turned against him. His son would say, what's going to happen? Nuh said to him, Allah is going to cause the heavens to rain and there will be flooding. So you have to come with me and board the ark. The Ark of Salvation at that time. Nuh is addressing his son with compassion. His son says, no. What I will do is, I will stand at the top of one of the mountains and the mountain will protect me from the rain. Nuh says to him, La asima lak al-yawm min amrillah. You will not attain any type of protection if you do not listen to me. Later on, his son does what? Drowns. He's disobedient and doesn't listen to his father. Nuh alayhi salam had the impression in his mind that what? That his son would be saved. So he speaks to Allah. He says, my son is from my family. How come he didn't choose the salvation, the path of righteousness? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the following, إِنَّهُ لَيْسَ مِنْ أَهْلِكَ إِنَّهُ عَمَلٌ غَيْرُ صَالِحٍ. That Nuh alayhi salam is told, the way that Allah judges human beings is not by which family they come from, is about their actions, is about how they represent themselves, is about their sincerity and their iman. Allah says to Nuh, he is not from your family, despite the fact that he is his son. Indeed, what he did was not righteous, something that the Almighty dislikes. And that's why you find that Salman al-Farisi has this title that the Prophet of Islam, Al-Rasul al-A'zam Mohammed sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, states and says, Salmanu minna ahl al-bayt. Salman is from us, the ahl al-bayt. In which way? Because of his devotion, because of his sincerity. Today we recite in Ziyarah Ashuraa, La'anallahu bani Umayyata qatibah. May the la'na of Allah fall upon all of Bani Umayyah. There were people from Bani Umayyah who at least had love for the ahl al-bayt. Even today they may be in the line of from the progeny of Bani Umayyah. I remember one of the ulama, the current mujtahideen, he said that one day I was in Umrah and I was going up Ghar al-Hira, this mountain of Nur, going up towards the cave of Hira. When I was going up, so somebody else also climbing, I looked at him, he said to me, you must be a Sayyid. I said, yes. Your forefathers are all from the Prophet's line. He said, yes. He said, I asked him, what is your family? Who are your forefathers? He replied back by saying, Bani Umayyah. The Sayyid looks at him and says, your forefathers killed my forefathers. He said, yes. He said, may the la'na of Allah be on those who killed my forefathers. This man from Bani Umayyah said, Ilahi Ameen. He agreed. Why? Because Islam doesn't look at an end. وَلَا تَزِرُ وَازِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى. The fact he was from Bani Umayyah doesn't necessarily mean that he is cursed. It means what in Ziyarah Ashuraa? It means whomsoever follows the path and the teachings and the way of Bani Umayyah. Whomsoever places their lives around the life of Bani Umayyah, takes them as example, respects them in the world today. Whomsoever respects the likes of Muawiyah and Yazid, that is whom the la'na of Allah falls upon. Why? Because they were the personification of evil and oppression and injustice. Hence we are told that the religion of Islam looks at this notion of identity in such a way that places emphasis and responsibility on you and I's shoulders. In which way? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that this notion of Muslim identity, when it comes to dealing with non-Muslims, how do we represent it? وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. I come forward and say that I am a believer, I am a Muslim, whilst at the same time performing good deeds. In other words, we must not only talk the talk, but we must walk the walk. That Imam al-Sadiq salamullahi alayhi says, لا تكونوا علينا شيئا كونوا لنا زينا ولا تكونوا علينا شيئا حتى يقول الناس رحم الله جعفر بن محمد كيف أدب شيعته. Do not be a source of disgrace for us. Be a source of praise when it comes to people who will look at you or your conduct, the way you present yourself, so that people say, may the mercy of Allah be upon Ja'far ibn Muhammad. He knew how to train and bring up his Shia. In other words, when I go out there, I'm not representing myself. I'm not representing only my family. I am the ambassador of the religion of Islam and the Ahl al-Bayt alayhim salam. It is not about, you know what, I can do whatever I like. I can steal, I can deceive, I can cheat, I can do whatever I wish. It's at the end of the day my responsibility. No, I go out there as a Muslim. I carry this responsibility on what? On my shoulders, ensuring that the message and the image of the religion of Islam is something that is proportional to the conduct of the Muslims. And that is indeed how we view it today in the world. That if the Muslims were such that they give such a beautiful image of what? Of the religion, then indeed many people's perceptions, despite Islamophobia and the attack by the media, would necessarily change. Hence, the identity of the Muslims is of the utmost importance. Therefore, in 2006, there was a Pew survey which asked 60,000 American Muslims in this country, which do you think you are first? Are you American first or Muslim first? And the results indicated the importance. 27% of the respondents said we are American first. And 47% said we are Muslim first. 18% of the 60,000 said we are both. Which means that this concept of identity and this notion is indeed confusing people. Sometimes when we go out there, we do not appreciate the importance of holding on to our principles, to our ideas in the best shape and form. When we come to the subject of shaking of the hands, how do we deal with it? Because many people find it very difficult. They come and ask scholars, maraji', others. They say we live in the West. This is an ibtila. This is a form of trial examination that too often in interviews and other places, the opposite gender extend their hands and I am unable to shake their hands. And if I don't do so, they may consider it as rude. Sometimes people say they may consider me as a germaphobe. You know, I have this obsession with remaining clean and I may think that the other person has some kind of impurity. All these thoughts go through the minds of people. How do we deal with this issue? Of course, there are superficial ways of dealing with it, and there is of course looking at the essence, the real philosophy of the prohibition. Superficially, sometimes people say, and ulama allow, for instance, the usage of the gloves. They say that if you wear the gloves and there is a shaking of the hands, this is permissible. The ulama clearly state that this is no problem. Others, for instance, talk about extreme difficulty which is intolerable. All these matters are there. Sometimes people have devised their own ways. Sometimes people carry books or carry paper on the right arm or right hand so that to say to people, I can't shake my hands. I've even seen people deliberately sneeze and cough on their hands and say, sorry, I can't shake your hand. All these things are there. Yet what I would like to take you and I would like your attention is the need to look at the essence, the core, the philosophy of the prohibition when it comes to the religion of Islam. Because the first thing that we have to say is that too often when you and I look at certain deeds, we do not understand, or actions or rulings, we do not understand why and in which way it should be performed. And what happens also is that we are afraid of the reaction of the people. The mind goes into this phase of calculating what others will perceive. And this is often the problem when it comes to public speaking, for instance. People don't like to speak in front of others because they're afraid how they'll be perceived. When it comes to the shaking of the hands, you and I may have 101 assumptions about what the others think, what the others may judge, what conclusions they'll come about with. I recall that there was an important story that highlights how you and I may be looking at this subject or this issue in the wrong way. Let me illustrate this by recalling this story. That there was a man by the name of Sheikh Abul Khair living in Iran. One day the king's son, his name is Hassan, decided to take the path of spirituality, to study mysticism. And this Sheikh Abul Khair was a scholar of mysticism, of spirituality. He came to him, he said to him, Maulana, Sheikhna, I wish to study and I want you to be my teacher. I want you to teach me how to get close to Allah and purify my heart. Can you do that? The Sheikh looks at him and says, I can do that, but it will cost you a lot. This man, who was the son of the king, said, don't worry, Maulana, I can give you whatever you want. The Sheikh said, no, you've misunderstood what I meant. It's not money that I'm looking for. He said, what is it? He said, I'm going to ask you to do a number of things. Can you do them? He said, yes, of course, I want to be your student. Sheikh said to him, I want you to go to the marketplace and buy some meat for me. This Hassan, who had never left the palace, who always has servants, says, Sheikhana, please, can I get one of my servants to do it? He says, no, you have to listen. If you want me to teach you, you have to listen to me. He said, okay, what do I have to do again? He said, go to the end of the marketplace in the city and buy some meat in front of others. This Hassan walks out, the prince goes to the market, His head is down. He's thinking people are looking at him and saying, what is this guy doing? He's the prince. Why is he walking in the street in such a way? There's no one with him. Why is he in the market? It doesn't befit him. He is red. He's embarrassed. His head is down. Quickly he gets to the market store where meat is being sold. He says to him, quickly, give me some meat, quickly. The meat is given to him. He rushes back towards where the Sheikh is staying. He presents the meat. The Sheikh says to him, now what I want you to do is go back to the other side of the town, go to the river and wash this meat. This man said, Sheikhana, now you're really crossing the line. What do you mean I have to wash this meat? Can I get somebody? He says, no. This man now reluctantly, Hassan, goes across the other side of the city, once again wary of people's eyes upon him, goes to the river, sits down, thinking in his head, people are saying, how is it that I'm washing the meat in front of others? He washes the meat with water in the river, he stands up, brings it back. Now the Sheikh looks at him and says, now I want you to do is what? I want you to cook this meat for us. Prepare some stew for us. Hassan says, now I can't do this. Khalas, this is now you've crossed the line. I have never cooked in my life. Sheikh says to him, do you want me to be your teacher or not? He says, okay, I'll go and do it. He goes outside, he gets a pan and he starts cooking the meat, preparing the stew in whichever way he can. When he presents the stew to the scholar and his students, the scholar looks at the student and says, today I want us all to eat the stew of Hassan's pride. They said, what? He said, I wanted to teach this particular individual to crush his ego, to crush the idea that others are what? Looking at him and what he's doing is inappropriate. That today he has passed the exam, meaning what? He looked at him and says, now go back to the market and ask people, did you see me earlier? What did you think when you saw me? He went back to the marketplace. Throughout the way, he looked at the people. He said to them, excuse me, did you see me earlier when I came head down to buy some meat? They said, no, we didn't pay attention to you. You were here? Really? We didn't really see you. He said, didn't you see me? Then what about when I went to wash the meat? They said, no, we weren't paying attention at all. The Sheikh was trying to inculcate the message in the heart of this particular individual, and it's a lesson for you and I. Too often we calculate and we have assumptions about other people's opinions that stop us from displaying our beliefs and our practices. We think people think, oh, it's rude, it's inappropriate, it should not happen. Yet, indeed, with the right way, we can get confidence. Therefore, how do we deal with this issue? We deal with it by understanding what? By understanding the ethos behind this action. The religion of Islam comes forward and states that in order for society and the community to remain in the state of healthy relationship that is based on purity, then it espouses what? It espouses the notion of prevention is better than cure. Meaning what? That Islam says that skin to skin contact does what? Brings a sense of what? Attractiveness. You might say to me, Maulana, please, how many times I've shaken the hands of others, other genders, and I've never felt a sense of attractiveness towards them, yearning towards them. This doesn't necessarily exist. I reply with the following. Do you know yourself better, or does Allah know yourself better? Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala is your creator and He knows you better. He knows through skin to skin contact there is often what? There is possibility of a tendency. Notice that if a male comes forward and shakes the hands of a non-mahram female, if the hands are soft and the shaking takes a long time, then there may be the gazes and the speech and the talk and the meeting and God knows what follows. This is a possibility. Is there a possibility? Exists. Islam wants to remove this possibility. That's why the Quran says, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. It says, do not even think about fornication and adultery. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا مَالَ الْيَتِيمِ إِلَّا بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. Don't even think about usurping the wealth of the orphans. Hence the Quran wants to create and protect us, build this fortress around us, this fortress of spirituality, of God fearing, of God consciousness, so that we can excel. That's number one. Number two, how do we demonstrate this? When we come to speak to others, when we say to them, I'm sorry that I can't shake your hand. And our dear sister Hajja Najah told us a few nights ago that she said, beautiful thing, She said, when you come to somebody and they want to extend their hands and shake your hands, do this. Say to them heart to heart, not hand to hand. Meaning what? You say to them that Islam honors the position of males and females. And when it comes to females, when it comes to those who can touch her, it's only a group of individuals, select individuals that can touch the skin. And therefore it is out of respect that I'm unable to shake the hands. That through understanding, that through presenting the message with full sincerity, with full conviction, many people out there will accept the message. You might say to me, but this is difficult. I may not be able to do it. My dear brothers and sisters, 40, 50 years ago, Salah was not known in many societies. Prayers. In Germany, we are told that a famous scholar from Iran went to Germany in the 1960s. He went to the park to pray with a few of his followers. After he finished Salah, he was surrounded by the police. They said to him, excuse me, what are you doing? He said, I am praying. Salah was unknown. But today the notion of Salah is what? Salah has become acceptable. Why? Because Muslims have been able to express it publicly, openly, with pride, with honor, with conviction. That they'll go and pray. Yes, I have to pray. What do? You bow down. It's like meditation. I speak to my Lord. It's beautiful. If we do not have that conviction to slowly begin to explain our faith, our practice, what God the Almighty subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained upon us, then we can never change the perception and the ideas of society. Likewise with hijab. When it comes to hijab, today hijab is accepted as a symbol of modesty, as a symbol of chastity around the world. If the sisters 50, 60 years ago thought, you know what? I have to fit in. I'm sorry, it's so hard. When I come to the majami', I'll wear the hijab. When I go outside, I won't wear the hijab. If the sisters at that time and our mothers and our sisters across the world did not hold to this principle of hijab firmly, today we wouldn't have the hijab. We wouldn't necessarily see it so widely practiced and accepted as a symbol of modesty around the world. Hence we have to understand this notion that too often when it comes to our identity and the shaking of the hands and other things, what influences us? What influences us is family and friends. These are important segments. Yesterday we discussed homosexuality. Often homosexuals are influenced by friends and the environment around them that pushes them towards this vile practice. Likewise, if we associate ourselves with the right friends, the Quran says to us, Al-Akhillau yawma'idhin ba'dhuhum li ba'dhin adu. Notice this, the Quran says, my dear brothers and sisters, on the day of judgment, every friend of yours shall be an enemy. Every friend shall be an enemy, but there's always a but, except illal muttaqeen. Close friends, intimate friends, those that you share your concerns with. The Quran says, if you have a close, intimate friend, they will be your enemy on the day of judgment, except those who fear God, fear Allah. Does that mean we can't have friends who are non-Muslim? No. You can have friends who are non-Muslim, but they mustn't be close friends. Friends that you confide with. The Quran says, be careful who you have a close associate. Why? Because they may influence you, take you out. In other words, the environment is very important when it comes to identity and belonging. And so many times, when we adhere so strongly to this Muslim identity, we are able to present this beautiful message of the religion of Islam. We are able to utilize this opportunity for da'wah and propagation. Tell me, when you explain to the non-Muslim about this, too often they'll ask you other questions. Tell me, what is the opinion of the religion of Islam when it comes to women, when it comes to marital relationships and others? Brothers and sisters, it opens the door for propagation, for the human being to be a tool for the guidance of others towards the path of righteousness and virtue, to become an individual who is honored to be a Muslim and following the path of the pure, infallible progeny of the Holy Prophet, just like how Ali al-Akbar salamullahi alayhi was. Indeed, a man who was 27 years of age on the 10th of Muharram. Notice how Imam al-Hussein salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi would speak when it comes to his son Ali al-Akbar. Today many people wish to dissect and analyze the biography of Ali al-Akbar. They say, what do we know about Ali al-Akbar? I say to them, is there anything better than the word of the Ma'soom? That when Imam al-Hussein says something about his son, this is not a trivial matter. This is not a small issue. When he says, لَقَدْ بَرَزَ إِلَيْهِمْ غُلَامٌ أَشْبَهُ النَّاسِ بِرَسُولِكَ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَآلِهِ خَلْقًا وَخُلُقًا وَمَنْطِقًا. That he resembled the Holy Prophet in 3 manners, 3 areas, 3 ways: in his appearance, in his mannerism, and when it comes to his speech. When it comes to the way he expressed himself. The Imam says, every time we wanted to look at and remember how Rasulullah was, we look at Ali al-Akbar. In Medina, there are people who would come and would want to see the Prophet. They would be told that the Prophet has passed away. They would say, is there anyone who resembles him? They would say, go to the house of Hussein. There is a man by the name of Ali al-Akbar. He resembles Rasulullah. Ali al-Akbar was the crystallization of generosity, of a youth who dissolved himself in the Muslim identity, or who was proud to express his Islamicness in every shape and form. He would say to his mother, Layla, he would say in Medina, oh my mother, keep the chimney fire alight. Why? So that the poor would come to our house and think that we have food, so that we can present and help the poor and the destitute and the needy. On the way to Karbala, Imam al-Hussein stands on the horse. He is contemplating. He falls asleep for a few moments. When he wakes up, Ali al-Akbar is right next to him. He says, oh my father, what's happened? Imam al-Hussein says, I fell asleep and I saw in my dream death coming towards us. Ali al-Akbar demonstrates his loyalty and the strength of his conviction, his taqwa, his servitude, his submission. He says to his father, oh our father, my father, alasna ala al-haq? Are we not on the path of righteousness, the truth? Imam says, yes, of course. Ali al-Akbar says, إِذَنْ لَا نُبَالِي. Indeed, we will not be worried if death comes to us or we approach death. And indeed, Ali al-Akbar was a manifestation of beautiful akhlaq. That today the youth can take Ali al-Akbar as a wonderful example, as a beacon to base their lives around when it comes to morality, when it comes to the way that we speak to others, the way we conduct ourselves, the way we present ourselves in society, what we wear, how we come out before others. Ali al-Akbar was a true example, and therefore on the 10th of Muharram, on the day of Ashuraa, he was the first to emerge from Bani Hashim. He came to his father, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Imam al-Hussein would say to everyone who would come to him, go back, it's not your time. But when it was to his eldest son, Ali al-Akbar, he would not tell him to go back. Here Abu Abdullah began the sacrifice with his oldest son Ali, and he ended it with his young 6-month-old Abdullah al-Radi' Ali al-Asghar. Ali al-Akbar comes to seek permission from his father. Imam al-Hussein would say to him, Bunay Ali, ilayya ashummuka wa tashummuni. Come next to me, let me bid farewell. They both hug each other until they fall unconscious. Imam al-Hussein looks at the army of Umar ibn Sa'ad. اللهم اشهد على هؤلاء القوم فلقد برز إليهم غلام أشبه الناس برسولك محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وكنا إذا اشتقنا إلى رسولك نظرنا إليه. Allahu Akbar. He is indeed one who resembled the Holy Prophet خلقا وخلقا ومنطقا. At that moment, Ali al-Akbar goes towards the battlefield. أنا علي ibn al-Husayn ibn Ali. he would go forward and would mention the lines of poetry. أضربكم بالسيف حتى ينحني ضرب غلام هاشمي علوي. He charges, and the narrations tell us that he kills 120 enemy combatants from the army of Yazid and Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. Several narrations state that Layla, the mother of Ali al-Akbar, perhaps was in Karbala. She stands outside the tent. She looks at the facial expression of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. She wonders what is happening to her son Ali al-Akbar. Imam al-Hussein's facial expression changes. Now he is worried. She says to him, Sayyidi Aba Abdullah, has something happened to my son Ali? Imam al-Hussein says, yes, there is somebody who I fear might hurt him. If you wish to see him again, the dua of the mother is answered by Allah. Go back to the tent and supplicate to the Almighty if you wish to see Ali al-Akbar one final time. Layla goes back to the tent, takes her hijab, sits on the prayer mat, looks up to the heavens and cries out, Ilahi bigharbati Aba Abdullah, Ilahi bidhulmati Aba Abdullah, Ya Radd Yusuf li Yaqub, Rudda ilayya waladi Ali. Oh, the one who returned Yusuf to Yaqub, I ask you by the fact that Hussein is alone on the battlefield in Karbala, return to me my son Ali. Ali al-Akbar kills that enemy combatant. He returns, he looks at his father, he asks him, my father, هل لي من شربة ماء أقوى بها على الأعداء? Is there any drop of water that I can get strength in order to fight the enemies? Imam al-Hussein says to him, Bunay Ali, fight in the way of Allah, for your grandfather Rasulullah will quench your thirst from the pond of Kawthar, sharbatan la tadma'u ba'daha abada. You will never be thirsty ever again. Your mother Layla is waiting for you. Go back to the tent. One narration states that before he went back to the tent, he looked at his father, Imam al-Hussein. Imam al-Hussein said to him, come close to me, let me give you part of the saliva in my mouth. Ali al-Akbar looks at the father, Imam al-Hussein, and says, Abata, your mouth is even drier than mine. You're even more thirsty than I am. Ali al-Akbar comes to the tent. He finds his mother Layla unconscious, sits next to her, takes her head, places it on his lap, starts to cry and weep. These are the moments, the final moments of wida between the son and the mother. Those who have sons, those mothers out there know the love that the mothers have for their children. That Layla wakes up, Bunay Ali, is that you? For the final time, stand up before me. Let my eyes fill up with your vision. Let me see you for the final time, my beloved Ali. Allahu Akbar. What would be the state that Layla would see Ali in a few moments? How would she look at Ali al-Akbar in such a state? Ali al-Akbar goes back to the battlefield. He's fighting valiantly. A man from Bani Tamim comes next to him and says, my God, I will make his father mourn for him. Hamid ibn Muslim says, is it not sufficient that he's been surrounded? He strikes him with a spear. Ali al-Akbar falls onto the horse. The blood of Ali al-Akbar fills the face of the horse, and instead of taking him to the side of Imam al-Hussein, the horse takes him to the side of Bani Umayyah, Umar ibn Sa'ad. They all surround him. One man strikes him with a sword, another man with a pole. He calls out, alayka minni salam abata ya Aba Abdullah, hadha jaddi رسول الله قد سقاني شربة من الماء لا أظمأ بعدها أبدا. Imam al-Hussein, one narration states that when he wanted to leave his campsite, he went to the other direction. His daughter Sukaina said, Abatah, the voice of Ali is this way. He said, Bunayya la talumini, do not blame me when I heard my son crying in such a way. I've lost my direction, I do not know where to go. He goes towards where Ali al-Akbar is lying. Bunay Ali ala dunya ba'dak al-afa. Oh my son Ali, you are now resting, you have left your father. What is the point of this world, this dunya? One narration states that Ali al-Akbar in his final moments was seen smiling on one side and upset and saddened on the other. Imam al-Hussein says to him, why are you smiling one side and the upset on the other? He says, my father Hussein, on my right hand is my grandfather Rasulullah. He is giving me water, he's quenched my thirst. Ajarakum Allah. My left hand side is my mother Fatima. She is slapping her cheeks, she is crying out, wa Husayna wa mazluma. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. نسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم إلهي بحق الحسين الشهيد وجده وأبيه وأمه وأخيه والتسعة المعصومين من بنيه، فرج عنا وعن أهلنا فرجا عاجلا قريبا يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين واخذل الكفر والمنافقين. اللهم دمر أعداء الدين. تقبل أعمالنا يا أرحم الراحمين. شافي مرضانا ومرضى المؤمنين والمؤمنات بحق مريض كربلاء زين العابدين. Many of our brothers and sisters have requested dua. They've asked me for dua in these blessed moments. Let's recite the ayah of Shifa all together 5 times. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. 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 يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله اكشف عنا السوء يا أرحم الراحمين. Let's stand together to recite دعاء الفرج. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. اللهم اجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره ومن المستشهدين بين يديه. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات. رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة تسبقها صلوات.